Hello, my name is Jake Lincoln. I performed my market research assignment on a local bar and grill in Cayugas I just started working at called Schooners Wharf. This market analysis is going to determine what type of market Schooners belongs to. At first, you'd automatically think it's monopolistic competition because it's a restaurant, and you'd be right because there's many other restaurants in the area. However, I focus more on the bar aspect, and I'm actually going to explain how I believe their bar is part of a local oligopoly. First off, their product is relatively homogeneous because most bars usually contain the same alcohol with a few variations in how they prepare specialty drinks, perhaps. Majority of the bars are usually local beers like Firestone Walker, for example. There's additionally a very few numbers of bars in Cayugas that would also suggest that it's part of an oligopoly. However, if you were to compare the market structure of Cayucas and Morro Bay, then I would not say that it's part of an oligopoly because there's about four more bars in Morro Bay, and therefore there would not be a four firm concentration ratio of 40%. However, if you were to Google bars in Cayucas, then you'd get these results here. And as you can see, there's only 3 bars in Cayucas, and one of them is only open till 10 at the latest. In this local community of Cayucas and anybody visiting the small town coming south on the 1, Schooners dominates the bar industry with at least a third of the industry's total revenue, if not more. I mean, the town's so small, I don't know if you realized all these bars are located on Ocean Avenue. And it's such a small town, I had to kind of give you a feel of it and show you what it looks like out front, in front of Schooners with the bar up there to the left of that dining section there, and that's overlooking the ocean. Just something that you really can't get in any other bar in Cayucas, especially. Some more characteristics of this market that would support an oligopoly is the pricing power of Schooners, because it's interdependent with the prices at the tavern across the street. Schooners still has some pricing power, however, because their drinks in their bar are more expensive than the drinks that we sell at my other restaurant called the Great American Fish Company, and that's located on the Morro Bay Embarcadero. So there is some pricing power, but it is interdependent. And Schooners also has the ability to rent seek, which is the act of lowering prices to keep other companies out of the industry. And Schooners has the capability to give 20% off to the locals, so they still charge the tourists the regular price, and they end up pulling business away from the tavern across the street and could eventually maybe even monopolize the local market in Cayucas one day. Additionally, there's not much advertising needed except maybe new drink specialties and happy hour advertisements that customers would probably already see when they're in the bar anyway. There may be some advertising effort online to be on Google reviews and Yelp, however, those are almost free advertising if not very little effort. Another thing about this market structure is that there are very high barriers of entry, along with the rent seeking like we mentioned earlier. When it comes to starting a bar, and it is very difficult to acquire a liquor license because there's only a limited amount of them that are uh, given out each year, and so therefore they're not cheap. They're very pricey. And there's also very high startup costs, such as buying an ideal piece of property just to get the business started, and on top of that you have to have money to build the bar, and in this case partially a restaurant, have equipment, appliances, food, alcohol, bartender, etc. All the things that you would need just to get the restaurant up and running. And I actually looked up some real estate in Cayucas and happened to find this dirt lot that was actually located on Ocean Avenue, the same as the other 3 bars in Cayucas, and as you can see, it costs almost $1 million alone just to acquire this dirt lot. And on top of that, you still have to build the bar, and there's still plenty of other costs that we call fixed costs just to get the doors open. And these are the costs that Schooners are going to have to pay, interdependent of the amount of product that they produce. Leasing or purchasing a commercial business is also a fixed cost, and it's an important one that we're going to talk about later as Schooners experiences a change and in their market and has issues with their lease agreement. Variable costs would consist of things such as labor, alcohol, other items that vary depending on how much output that Schooners has. If you were to graph the market structure that Schooners is part of, it looks something like this, where the yellow portion would represent Schooners' economic profit, and you could see the kink demand curve that would represent the relatively general price that the bar industry would charge because of the interdependence that the bars have in Cayucas. and that price would be located right there at D. So if the price goes up, there's a lot of inelasticity. However, Schooners has the ability to drop price and drive up demand. And also take note that the profit is all the space above the average total cost curve where it meets the marginal cost curve. And Schooners is going to experience a change in that because Schooners is reaching the end of their lease agreement that they had started with the owner of the property when Schooners first started in 1993. The agreement was to lease out the property until Schooners eventually purchased the property for a negotiated price when the lease agreement ended. However, now that Schooners has done so well for themselves and the property is worth much more than when they started, the owner wants to raise the purchasing price, and he's saying that Schooners had violated their lease agreement. So if this were to happen, although I do not believe they did violate their lease agreement, not important, if this were to happen, Schooners would experience an increase in their fixed costs. So the average total cost would go up. And because of their suppliers' expectations, they're going to have to raise the price in order to compensate. And the change in the market would be reflected in the average total cost curve, the ATC curve that you see here. As it increases, there is an increase. As it increases and there is a decrease in the overall economic profit. However, there's still a decent amount of profit because Schooners is a powerful oligopolistic company, so they might not experience such a drastic change in their prices and the average total cost curve in the long run, at least, because their costs are going to eventually their marginal costs will eventually lower again as they sell enough plates so that their fixed costs get divided enough times that it's not very effective. If you were to look at the graph on a smaller scale, you can see how the average total cost curve is going to increase. However, the average variable cost curve is going to be constant. And it's not actually changing. You can see down there in the red, the average fixed cost is going to be what's increasing, causing the average total cost curve to go up. And if you actually look at the marginal cost curve where it intersects, the blue average total cost curve will also represent how their marginal cost of producing each plate of food is more costly. And just to give you an idea what the bar looks like, I took a picture here. Sunday, just a random day on a Sunday, not very busy hours, but of course you got some people in there. There always seems to be a crowd there in Cayucas. Awesome bar overlooking the water there. Pretty stoked to be working there. Well, thanks for listening. That's going to be my market research assignment, and hope you enjoyed it.